Hello and welcome back to another video, and if you're new, I'm happy to have you here. In today's video, we are going to be going over 10 things that everyone should know when starting out with Blender, Maya, or any other 3D modeling software, to be fair. Before we start though, remember that in order to gain great karma from the gods, like the video and subscribe if you haven't already once we reach the end of the video and come to the conclusion that I'm an awesome individual. And to be clear, this is a very entry-level video. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing we're going to cover is the user interface. The user interface, or UI, refers to the layout and organization of tools and controls within the software. It is important to become familiar with the UI so that you can find and use the tools you need quickly and efficiently. Some software may allow you to customize the UI to suit your personal preferences and workflow. Number 2. Another thing to get a grip on is modeling basics. 3D modeling involves creating 3D shapes, and objects that can be used in 3D graphics and animation. There are many different techniques that can be used for 3D modeling, such as polygonal modeling, NURBS modeling, and sculpting. It is important to understand the basic principles of 3D space and how to navigate and manipulate objects within it, as well as how to create and edit basic 3D shapes such as cubes, spheres, and cylinders. Now we're headed into the dreaded texturing category. Yay! Well, dreaded for some, definitely dreaded to me. Then you have other people going fucking Rain Man on this shit, and I honestly don't know how it's possible. Anyway. Texturing involves adding color and detail to surfaces of 3D models. There are many different techniques that can be used, such as painting directly on the model, using images as textures, or creating procedurally generated textures. It is important to understand how to apply and adjust textures, as well as how to create and edit UV maps, which are used to control how a texture is applied. A simple way to think of UV wrapping is, it's a way to unwrap a 3D model and flatten it out into a 2D image. Imagine taking a stuffed animal and cutting it open down the middle. If you flatten out the stuffed animal and lay it out flat, you would have a 2D pattern that you could use to sew the animal back together. UV mapping is like this, but for 3D models. Number 4. Lighting. Another one of my fears. Well, come to think of it, anything except for polygonal modeling is my fears, so from now on, just assume I hate everything. Light. Proper lighting is crucial for creating realistic 3D scenes. This includes understanding how to set up and adjust different types of lights, such as point lights, spotlights, and area lights, as well as how to control the intensity and color of the light. It is also important to understand how to use lighting to create mood and atmosphere in a scene, and how to adjust the lighting to suit different purposes, such as rendering or real-time rendering. Rigging. Rigging is the process of setting up a character or object so that it can be animated. This involves creating a skeleton or rig for the model, which can then be controlled to move the model in different ways. It is important to understand how to create and manipulate the rig, as well as how to use constraints and other techniques to control the movement of the rig. Animation! Animation involves creating the illusion of movement by changing the position and appearance of objects over time. This can be done manually by keyframing the movement of objects or using more advanced techniques such as motion capture or physics simulation. It is important to understand the principles of animation and how to create smooth, believable movement. One way to do this is by easing. Easing is a way to make an animation feel more natural by adding a little bit of acceleration or deceleration. Imagine you're pushing a shopping cart. As you start to push, the cart might feel a little heavy and slow to start moving, but as you keep pushing, the cart will start to roll more easily. Easing in animation works in a similar way by adding a little bit of drag or bounce to the movement of the model. Number 7. Rendering. Rendering is the process of generating a final image or video from a 3D scene. This can be computationally intensive, and it's important to understand how to set up the rendering process and optimize it for efficiency. This includes understanding how to adjust rendering settings such as resolution, anti-aliasing, and the number of samples, as well as how to use rendering engines and rendering techniques such as global illumination and ray tracing. Number 8. Modeling techniques. There are many different techniques that can be used for 3D modeling. For example, polygonal modeling, a great way to create 3D models by using flat shapes called polygons. Imagine building a model of a house out of flat wooden blocks. Each block would be a polygon. By arranging these polygons and adding details like windows and doors, you can create a 3D model of a house. NURBS modeling is a different way to create 3D models. Instead of using polygons, NURBS modeling uses curved lines to create smooth organic shapes. Imagine taking a piece of clay and sculpting it like a bowl. The curved lines you make in the clay would be like NURBS curves. The curved lines you make in the clay would be like NURBS curves. Fuck it, I can't say that. NURBS curves. I'm gonna put it on the fucking screen, I don't know. And lastly, sculpting. Sculpting is a way to create 3D models by, well, you guessed it, sculpting. Just like a sculptor might use their hands and tools to shape a block of clay into a sculpture, you can use digital tools to... this is so fucking hard. You can use digital tools to shape a virtual block block of clay into a 3D model. Sculpting is often used to create detailed organic models like characters or animals. Number 9, almost at the end here. Shortcuts. Learning shortcuts can greatly speed up your workflow, so it's worth taking the time to memorize the most commonly used one of the software you are using. This can include shortcuts for common tasks such as selecting objects, manipulating 3D space, and chasing tools. I can't stress this enough, shortcuts are gonna, save you a fuck ton of time. And finally, never stop learning. 3D software is constantly evolving, so it's important to stay up to date with new features and techniques by regularly learning and practicing. This can be done through online tutorials, courses, or by experimenting and trying out new techniques on your own. It is also important to keep an open mind and be willing to try new approaches and techniques, as this can help you expand your skills and find new ways to solve problems. And that brings us to the end of the video. This list was also helped create with the amazingness which is ChatGPT, aka Assistant. Being able to go back and forth with a chatbot like this feels exactly like spitballing with a team member. It is absolutely amazing. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe and like it. Also, leave me a message in the comments what you hate most about 3D modeling. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye bye.